Good morning and namaste. This is Atul, and we are going to review the material that we've covered and go over the assignments. So a lot of what we've done with manasa101 is really, it's almost like background information. A lot of the nitty-gritty stuff, that the application, the protocols, is going to be dietary, although of course there can be things like, prescribing yoga therapy and so forth that can be used as protocols to correct problems with the mind. A lot of it, though, is just understanding the problem, understanding what happens at the core of our existence. And the word that's used, one of the words that's used for mind in Sanskrit is sattva. Sattva means existence. It also means the mode of purity, of pure existence, but it can also mean that which is our life, which is the core of our existence. So any sickness of the body, any physical imbalance is going to affect the mind because it's going to affect the prana. For example, when you have a fever, if you come down with the flu and you're really not feeling well, you feel dizzy, you are unable to concentrate, you have a headache. What are these all symptoms of? They're symptoms of a disturbance of the prana. And that disturbance of the prana affects the mind, it affects the intellect, and it affects us pretty much all the way across the board. So let's take a look at some of the things that we have covered. And let's look at the assignments. So one of the important things is that there is a we have the quiz and we also have the Manasa Prakriti questionnaire. So if you go down here under assignments, if you go from the home to manasa101, and if you scroll down to assignments, then you'll see under this first assignment, you have this Manasa Prakriti questionnaire. So let's just take a quick look at that. Okay. So basically, this is a checklist where you can go over the sattvic, tamasic, rajasic categories. And the whole idea here is to get you to think about the influence of these three gunas and how they can be imbalancing us in particular. So, what are the kind of categories? Spiritual practice and meditation. Is this something that someone does regularly, never, or irregularly? Does someone do pranayama? What's the mental clarity like? How do they react at the time of stress? What's the mental clarity like at the time of stress? What's their first reaction to stress triggers? And how do they react to specific types of stress? What about, work, finances, family, relationships, slow cars on the road, unsolicited sales calls? So, the whole idea here is to just try to come up with sort of an inventory of ways that we react mentally and emotionally to various types of things. And what's the characterization in the three gunas of different aspects of the way that we function? So all of these things are actually connected, and these are all connected to things that we've covered in this course. It's a lot of this is about wanting to understand the balance and the way that the different parts of our constitution function. So, do we actually finish projects that we start? Do we finish projects on time? What's our concentration like? What's our attention span like? What's our willpower like? Are we able to, pursue knowledge and stick with it? What's our memory like? Is it affected by stress? It's very important. Because a lot of what we want to understand as Ayurvedic practitioners is what is the normal balance of someone, what's their prakriti, and what is their vikriti? How is their balance affected by stress? How is it affected by external circumstances? Because the types of protocols that we'll use in trying to help someone achieve their balance are going to be looking at what's their normal center and recognizing that we may not necessarily be able to change that, but trying to get things back in balance, trying to rectify the imbalance. So, and some of these are more general things. What about our emotions? Are we emotionally honest? Some of these are things that it's very hard for people to be objective about. People will tend to say, well, I'm a very emotionally honest person, and then their partner may say, oh, this person is not emotionally expressive at all. They're not able to talk about how they feel, and it's very difficult. Or they'll sometimes say, one thing is the problem when I know that it's really something else. And then there's some of these general things here. So the whole idea here is to try to get you to think about these different specific things. Start with yourself, and then try to be brutally objective about yourself. Try to just detach yourself. And then look at the difference between when you answer these naturally as if you were answering for someone else and how you would answer these being completely objective, as if you are a theoretical, totally clinical observer who just has no motivation for making yourself look good and who sees everything about what you feel, what you think, what you do, and look at where the differences are and try to understand the ways that people may adjust for their desire to not feel bad about themselves. Because as practitioners, we're not really concerned with, understanding. It's important to understand sometimes what someone's self-image is as opposed to how they actually are. But we really are more interested in understanding how things actually are because we just want to try to help. We want to help rectify the imbalance. So this is actually a very important tool, actually, for you to use, and that you can use as a practitioner as well as in learning and understanding. it's part of this assignment. So part of this assignment is, go through this and then just write, you write an essay, and it can be any format, Word or OpenOffice or whatever, PDF, and upload your so here's the description. So go through the mental questionnaire PDF, and then give a report in the text, in a text document, and look at your mind and how is your mind affected by the three doshas? What's the combination of doshas? And what's the effect of the gunas? The whole point is start with the questionnaire. Go through the questionnaire. The questionnaire will help sort of inventory different aspects and try to be very objective. And also think about this because, you may ask someone to do this questionnaire in looking at their own constitution so that you can understand aspects of their mental constitution. And then you may, you may expect that people are going to think of themselves a little differently than others do. And your goal is to try to understand, because you're looking for the source of imbalance that can be balanced, that can be rectified. So that's one of the assignments. And then the other one is this day in the life. So basically, we went over the Panchakosha slideshow. Either take yourself or someone that you know really well and try to provide an example of activities that touch on multiple levels of awareness. Go through a whole day, from the time you get up to the time that you go to bed, and go through every type of activity and try to categorize it according to these 5 levels of awareness. So it doesn't have to be necessarily one day where you do, an actual day, but sort of a composite day that includes many different types of things that you might do on different days, but that are, the point is we're looking for a representation of these different levels of awareness. And if you can provide at least one example of an activity that involves multiple levels of awareness, that'll be great. And then, so the reference is that there's also this quiz that Monica put together. So there is a password, and you get 3 attempts. So the reference material for this quiz, there's a lot of true or false, some multiple choice questions. But the reference material for this quiz is the material that we've covered, and there are also references to some of the material that Monica has been covering in the Ayurvedic nutrition. Okay. So does anyone have any particular questions about things that we've covered in this module? Or any questions about the assignments? Yeah, there are these 2 assignments and there's the quiz. So there's the day in the life assignment, and if you go here, so this is a very useful feature. If you log in, you notice I'm logged in as me, and if you go to My Courses, then you'll see Organized by Courses. You will see the assignments. So under Manasa 101, we'll see the assignment 1A, and it'll say, you know, when it's due. Assignment 2, and when it's due. And you can click on the assignment. So this is another assignment as well. And this is discussing the Manova Hasrota. And then there's a link to the quiz. And there's a link to the news forum. So basically, if you go to the, make sure you're logged in, and if you go to the My Courses link, then that's going to take you to every assignment that you have organized by the courses that you're enrolled in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 4 assignments. And, you know, assignments, they can either be uploaded as a PDF or a Word document or OpenOffice document. Any of those work. Yeah, so that assignment about Noel, that's also one of those 4. I think the one that asks about Noel, that's in the quiz. So yeah, so the other thing is that the slideshows, you should have all the slideshows that we've gone over here. The slideshows are a little brief. They're a summary. They are meant to be, they're available there for you to use them kind of as a reference and as a study guide. There are also some additional audio recordings. I've recorded some audio-only lectures that are on there in MP3s, which you can listen to. Some of those also give some additional material and perspectives that we have not covered. Some examples are, there was one that I did on meditation. Here we go. Yeah, we can also just scroll down to go to My Courses and go to Ayurveda in the Mind. So you'll see here these recorded talks, Mind, Body, Soul. This was from a seminar that we did in Mexico, so there's a bit of translation. But it was pretty good. It was a pretty good talk, and it covered a lot of topics related to meditation. There's a talk here on the 5 koshas, which we've mostly covered, and there's also one on the concept of karma and physical and psychological suffering, you know, which is covering the concepts of adhyatmik, adhibautik, adhidaivic. With the lectures, you'll see that we have, you know, lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, and then we have a lecture 1.1 because in previous groups, previous batches, we've covered the same material, sometimes in a slightly different order, and as we're, you know, going through, we continue to refine the presentation and the order. So mostly this should be material that is, you know, what we've already covered, but you can also look at these slideshows and see if they're, sometimes you'll see the same stuff. You know, for example, in lecture yeah, lecture 3, we have a slideshow about mind, action, and food in the 3 gunas, which is actually the same as, it's a combination of the food in 3 gunas and the mind in 3 gunas slideshows that had been done previously. So, go through all of the material here and to review, and the main thing is, what we really want you to do is to think about the mind, think about the way the mind operates, and think about the influence of the gunas on the mind. Because a lot of what we do is we're looking at ways of trying to balance. Sometimes the imbalance is one that is, related to the circulation of prana, and that we can deal with pranayama. If someone is living a very sattvic lifestyle and they have some sickness, they can actually rectify their whole sickness just by some slight modification of the diet and by doing some pranayama. The less sattvic we are in our lifestyle, the more we may need other types of therapies and treatments and herbs, and even in extreme cases, we may need, surgical intervention. These are all stemming, the need for these different types of therapies is stemming from our being involved more in the, modes Rajogun and Tamogun. But if you think about, the person who's living a purely sattvic lifestyle, like a yogi really, who never eats more than needed and lives a very simple life and is dedicated to yoga practice, their sicknesses can actually be rectified simply through doing some pranayama, doing breathing exercise, doing some meditation. Yes. So I'm not sure about, in the block 2, you are covering the Jyotish. So that's a very interesting point. Now, one of the things that we have here is, no, you have not started Jyotish. I can just point you to something here. So one of the things that we have created, or I've created, is, let's see, where is that? If you go to the Ayurveda course home, let's see, I put a link in here. I thought I did. Okay, well, it's on the home page. So if you go to the San Diego College of Ayurveda homepage and you go to the free Jyotish calculation, this is something that you can play around with, but basically it collects your time, date, place of birth, and calculates planetary positions. The Mahadasha is, Mahadasha are periods that are ruled by the influence of different planets. So you remember, one of the things that we've talked about in terms of the gunas is that time has quality. Can everyone see this thing that's opening here? It's a little slow. It's a Java application, and it's a bit big. Once it loads, it sort of sticks with you. It'll stay with your browser. Okay, so here it comes up with a, can everyone see this chart here that's shown on the left? Okay, great. you can put your own information in here. There's a guided tour link, and it just takes you through the steps. Enter your date and time, you know, where to do that. And then you select the location. You can do that on the Google Maps. And see, I was born in the same hospital as Al Gore. How about that? Isn't that cool? Select the location. Try to get it as close as possible to where you were born. Select the time zone. It's very important because these are actual time zones that are based on the political changes, which have varied historically. You know, for example, Cesar Chavez was born in Yuma, Arizona in 1929. Yuma, Arizona in 1929 was not on Arizona time, it was on Pacific time. And we know that from the database here. And so that's it. So you get all of your information, you can calculate your time, and you can go to your dashas, Vimshottari, and these are the Mahadashas. And they are ruled by the different planets. So this is something that's going to be covered in the Jyotish. But to answer that specific question, yes, that's where it's coming from. So in this case, you have this person here. What's the Mahadasha here? It's ruled by Mercury, and there's a sub-period of Mars. So Mercury, Mars. And you can keep drilling down. It's like a fractal thing. But I digress a little bit. No, you haven't really started on this yet, but that's the basic idea. So remember, one of the concepts that we covered is that time has quality, and the time that you were born reflects a certain set of qualities that are present. So when we talk about the three gunas, what we're talking about is it's a very complex interweaving and a way that the three gunas touch us through the energies that are given by the different planets in their different positions. So, yeah, here you go, here's Cesar Chavez. It's as you go through the day, and from one day to the next, the influence of time changes. So that's why when we talk about gunas, we say let's start by trying to perceive the effect of the gunas. But your gunas are not constant; they are going to change. They're going to change with time, from one day to the next, from 1 hour in the day to the next. Things are going to change. So let's say, Cesar Chavez, he was born at 3 p.m., 3 in the afternoon. His ascendant is Leo, and that puts the planets in a particular position. If he had been born, say, let's say 40 minutes later, how would that have changed? Recalculate. So suddenly he is, his moon has changed. His moon is no longer in the same place that it was. That changes the whole, that changes all of the energies. That changes the influences in a subtle way. It's a very complex subject, and we can't really fully give it, all the coverage that it needs. But we do cover that in Jyotish, and also in looking at how this translates into the types of physical influences, some of which come about because of the influence on the mind. And different planets have more of a relationship with different aspects of our existence. For example, Moon has a very strong relationship with mind. And depending on where the Moon is, the influence on our mind based on what was the influence on our mind at the time of birth may change. So we've covered the basics here, and then when we study Jyotish, it becomes more, we develop more in terms of looking at the subtleties and the changing influences with time. Because it's, the theory is very simple, and then we're trying to now apply the theory and then look at how these different influences come into play. So the answer is no, you haven't missed anything. This is part of Jyotish. Any other questions? So I'm going to end there and leave you to take the remaining time on your own and just try to review the material that we've covered and start looking at those assignments. And the whole goal here is to provide some theory, but make you think about it, make you put it into application. And now let's start trying to connect it to actual situations with actual people. And a lot of it is just understanding the problem. If you understand the problem, if you understand the imbalance, then it is usually fairly straightforward to find a way to rectify the imbalance. So that's it, basically. Well, thank you all very much for participating. I have enjoyed presenting this module, and I look forward to seeing your response on the assignments. Thank you, and namaste.